post roundtable discussion of the GOP presidential debate that just took place on Fox News. I'm Fawn Riggin. Thanks for tuning us in here at KZIM KSIM.com. The panel is still all here. That was a rousing debate. I think we laughed as much as we cheered, as much as we booed, as much as we said, you know, we had so many different emotions, and it was a fun thing to watch. But I do want to start where I know everybody is, and I was not impressed with the questions, the way that they were antagonistic and almost trying to get the candidates to fight on stage. Yep. And let's go around the table and start with Wayne Wallingford, our senator here. Did you feel that?
Yes, well, I thought those questions were very divisive, and that was very disappointing to me. I wanted to hear more about issues and not opinions of the other candidates.
Just a little louder, because we're having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, I just thought it was too divisive because they were pitting candidate against candidate. I'm not interested in another candidate's opinion of a candidate. I'm more interested in what that candidate brings to the table. I thought the questions didn't bring that out during the debate.
Okay. Scott?
Well, I'll tell you, tonight I was looking for civility. I was hoping that they would all follow Ronald Reagan's command, 11th commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of their fellow Republican. And our media friends decided that that's how we're going to start out. And belligerent, I think, would be the word that I would use. You know, Donald Trump received the first question, and it was purposefully put out there. And if he had answered it any different, I think that it would have changed the direction of things. I think he answered it the only way he could answer it is, you know what, as long as I'm the nominee, I'll be happy to support the nominee. Mm-hmm. You know, that's typical Trump fashion. But I was disappointed in the questions, especially the first questions that were asked. They were belligerent.
Do we think that maybe Fox had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, trying to prove that they're not all just gung-ho pro-Republican, and that they had a little fight in them for the other side, maybe watching the debates?
I absolutely think so. I think that they did it for the media value of it. They maybe somewhat were poked by RNC, who's upset right now, I believe, with Trump. And so I think that kind of set the tone some. But I'm not happy with how the hosts conducted themselves either. And sometimes they seem to be a little bit nasty as well as their questions, trying to pit the nastiness against each other, the candidates.
How did you feel, Holly, about the Facebook questions and the interjections from the public? Is that even necessary?
No, I don't think this early on for the first debate, when we're really just needing to get substance out there so we can really start to sort out for ourselves who's going to do best in the job. I don't feel like we needed to hear all that extra fuss. I think we need to just go straight down the line with the issues and really start sorting it out.
I was waiting for a girl in a bathtub with Cheerios and green lipstick, to be honest with you. You know, that seems to be, they want that shock value, but I didn't think it was necessary. Marilyn, what did you think of the questions tonight?
Extremely disappointed in the tone. And this is the one thing about it. They got to realize that we've got the Republican channel talking to the Republican candidates. Pretty soon we're going to have the Democratic, we hate Republican people who are going to do everything they can to destroy these guys. And they've got to be tough now. And if they can't win now with the right comments and win us over, they're not going to win it over later.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, I was very angry. And then the other way I go, you know what? We'll see who can stand up to this.
Okay, great. Doug, how about you?
Well, I was having a hard time understanding why the questions took the tone that they did, because it was very dividing, no help in solving a problem, not what is your specific position on something. It seemed like it was all about ratings, because it was just, everything was to pick a fight. Everything, it was just so slanted toward coming from an adversarial position. I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed.
Okay. I can't even see if you're awake down there. Hi. What did you think?
You know, I thought I'd be the first one to address this.
Yeah.
This, what we watched. Watched what happened from minute one, question one. And I'm impressed that everybody else feels exactly the same way. And, you know, it goes back to an interview I caught earlier this week that, in paraphrasing a quote from Roger Ailes, talking about, and I think this is circa 1992 or thereabouts, where he talked about a network controlling the debate versus a political party. And I think we witnessed Roger's prediction, and I guess he was the one that orchestrated this, given that he's the president of Fox News and has been the only president they've had. And I watched a network control a Republican Party debate, the way that they answered them. Obviously, these questions were customized and certainly to help and hurt specific candidates.
Yes.
And I tell you the most extreme example, which, you know, it flies so far from any journalistic and albeit old school journalistic standards that I was indoctrinated with way back decades ago, when they invoked a message from God and what it did, you know, what would that do to you? A personal message from God. And it was asked to specific candidates before they then switched the question. And that was late in the debate. But and it started, like I said, with the hatchet job on Donald Trump. And hey, there's a lot of people out there who feels that he probably deserved it. But again, as everyone around this table so far has expressed, that was so editorialized that this was a Fox News channel spin to a degree that I was surprised, and I expected it. I expected it, to be honest with you.
Thanks, Boyce. You know, Fox News Channel or not, I just don't think that pining or putting these candidates against each other was what anyone wanted to see, though. So I don't understand why they did it. Even if it were for ratings, it doesn't make sense to me because we didn't get to find out as much as we wanted to. All right, Dylan, what did you think of the questions?
I thought I agree with all of them. I just thought they were kind of condescending. They're just working on a few candidates. It always seems like they already had their mindset on who they wanted to make look good. I don't know. I was just kind of sad on. I love the part, you know, of Trump makes it all and he sticks up for himself and went right in it, you know. I like that, but I also thought it was kind of rude to start right off with going right at Trump to ask him if he would switch right away. I just thought that was too much right away.
Yeah, it's disrespectful to Donald, whether he deserves it or not. This isn't the place for them to place that kind of a judgment.
No,
He doesn't even deserve
Not
it.
I don't think so.
no.
I don't think so.
I
Michael?
think I kind of lost all faith in most of the mass media out there. So coming into this, I had low expectations. So hearing them come out of the gate with those terrible questions, what I found more enlightening was the way that the candidates handled those terrible questions. Because you could see Trump's face, and we talked about this. He kind of looked a
He
little
had the duck face.
pleased, but at the same point, I mean, I think he handled that well. So hearing how they dealt with that really was enlightening to me to see how you're going to stand up under some of this pressure and some of the mudslinging, because that is really important. Because the farther we get into this campaign, the more of that is going to come out from everywhere. So seeing how they can handle it now, some of the candidates seemed very timid. Some were stuttering over their words, but there were several out there that
And
really.
some by me, you mean Jeb.
Oh, well, I was going to say, you know, I think he's the new flippy floppy. that we
Yeah,
got
I think
out there.
so too.
He contradicted himself quite a bit, but I was looking at it more of how are you going to handle yourself for your first debate. The content, I was just hoping if something good comes out of it, this is just the first debate. If this was like the final debates before, you know, the big thing, I would be really disturbed by this. But for our first one out of the gate, I wasn't too upset.
Okay. As far as how the candidates handled themselves, I think some of them were very, very impassioned in some of the questions. I think some were very frank with and almost rehearsed in some of their answers. I think Ted Cruz probably answered all of the questions the best, with the exception of Ben Carson. But Scott Walker had a strategy, and he never left from it. And I'm gonna let Scott talk on that, but we both noticed it, and it's called getting back to your platform. Scott really probably did the best job tonight as far as that goes.
Absolutely. Scott Walker in every answer. I even wrote down Scott Walker is running against Hillary. He's not running against anybody else on that stage. He's running against Hillary, and he pivot every time. It didn't matter the question. Somehow he got in there, unlike Hillary Clinton. Or, you know, I would do this, unlike Hillary Clinton. And I thought that was very important. That showed me that he's looking long run. He's not looking for short-term gains to knock on, you know, to get up in the polls. He's looking at a long-term strategy to say, I'm going to win in Iowa. I may not win in New Hampshire. I may not win in South Carolina. But at the end of the day, when we get to Cleveland in July, I will be standing there running against Hillary Clinton, because that's the strategic, you know, direction that he's going. And I felt like his answers really some of them were a little bit scripted. You could tell there were a couple of them that he was waiting to bring out. There was a canned answer that he had practiced. That's a part of debate prep. You know, I recognize that. But truly, he was running against Hillary Clinton tonight.
Yeah.
And it showed of all the candidates, he's the one who mentioned her name the most, I would think.
I think hands down the one that mentioned it's an old pageant trick to always get back to your platform. So he must have hired somebody from the Miss USA pageant. Oh wait, that's Donald Trump. Never mind. But Wayne, what was the big message you got tonight as far as the candidates? They all seem united in one area in my mind, but I see what you thought.
Well, again, I was looking at the record that they presented on the stage, and I thought it was unfair that one of the questions to Scott Walker was, well, you promised 250,000 jobs, but you know, you only got, I think it was 100,000 of those. They didn't focus in on when you became governor, you had a $3.6 billion deficit. You balanced your budget. You cut taxes by $2 billion, and unemployment went from 9.2 to 5.2. They homed in on another one where he didn't quite make his goal. So I thought they picked him out as that, but I think his answers showing that he was battle tested, a good reformer, and a serious contender.
Okay.
And he did a good pivot on that, because he said, if you don't have lofty goals, how can you expect to achieve high goals? You may not always make your high goals, but set the bar high and strive to achieve that. And I thought he did a good pivot on that question.
Yeah,
He didn't get rattled.
Yeah. And in the end, he showed what a perfect governor he was, what he had done for the whole community. So
Excellent. I thought that they all were very, very focused on their message of military strength. And I think that's huge for America right now, because I don't feel all that safe, to be honest with you.
No.
And it's not just because the NSA and the Patriot Act and all these things are backfiring. It's because the borders are open and our military is shrinking. They're shutting down missile silos. They're getting rid of our servicemen and women. And we're worried more about whether or not they have certain body parts than they do weapons. And it's amazing to me that that's even an issue, but that's neither here nor there. But for me, the big message was on military. What do you think, Scott?
I think Mike Huckabee's comment about we're flying planes that were built in the 60s and we haven't built new planes since then was point on, as a representative of where we are strategically in our military. We had several discussions about the Iran deal. I don't think anybody on the stage was for the deal. Earlier before this debate, we saw, you know, they brought up an issue where Rick Perry said he'd rather have Carly Fiorina making a deal than the deal that we got. And so I think for sure military was a topic. Foreign policy is a major topic. I saw several of them, you know, state several things. Rand Paul had to defend some comments that he's made in the past. I don't think he's changed his mind. I respect someone who says, look, I made a statement and I'm not going to waffle on the statement because you disagree with me on it. I can still defend it. And I felt like whether I agree with him or not, he did an adequate job defending his choice to cut spending where he was wanting to cut spending. So.
Excellent. Holly, what was the main message you got tonight that you thought was the best from the candidates as far as their hope as the next candidate for president?
The biggest thing I was looking for is the undertones of making us great, of hope for America, you know, bringing us back to that idealistic thought that we used to have that I think we've gotten so far away. And so just those little glimmers of hope where they're trying to kind of tap back into that. And for us, the military, obviously, and what we've done overseas, it's hard for a lot of our younger generation to even understand how great we used to be and the powerhouse we used to be. And so just trying to kind of, you know, put those little glimmers of light into people's minds that we could be there instead of where we are now.
Who do you think stood out the most tonight?
I would say I still think Trump, obviously, but I think that was somewhat by design because they were attacking him. I think Ben Carson had a lot of very smart answers, and I think really showed that he could play in this game, that he's well more than just a surgeon and professor. So I was impressed with them, but I also thought there was a lot of nonsense going on the stage. And you guys were talking about Walker earlier, and honestly, he was very practiced, very prepared, but I also felt like he lacked some passion. Okay. And I think we picked up passion from Carson. You could see that. Ted Cruz, I think we saw a little bit of passion. So that's what I was kind of looking for.
Okay, excellent. And I know, Marilyn, you were a cheerleader for Ted Cruz through a lot of this.
I love this guy. You know, earlier when you asked me who am I for, I mentioned 4 people and I didn't mention him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like he, in my opinion, is right at the top with the rest of them. I don't know why we don't give him more credit. Why do we call him
Because
the
he's
bad
Tea
guy?
Party. That's why.
I'm Tea Party and I'm afraid to admit it. Oh, I just did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I won't write my name down. I won't go to the meetings, but I believe in everything for Tea Party. I
Mhm.
really do, because I'm so sick of what's happening today. There's just no guts. I can't say the word I want to say.
Yeah.
But there's no guts out there. I love Ted Cruz. I like Wisconsin. I like,
Scott Walker.
yes,
Mhm.
a lot. Even though he didn't show the compassion, the guy has always been known as a poor speaker for showing compassion. He is more into the facts.
Mhm.
And I love Trump. I don't care if he looked like a duck tonight or not. So I still stick with and Ben Carson.
Yeah.
The guy has emotion that is business-like. You cannot help but respect that man, and you know it comes from his heart.
Mm-hmm.
And he cares about us, and it comes through.
Yeah. All right, Doug, you're up, buddy.
Well, I'm still in a gaining knowledge mode, but I came in I had everybody ranked before I came in. I had Trump #1. He's still #1. A problem solver, not a politician.
Uh-huh.
The bad politician, Wayne. But he says that, and he means that. He's a problem solver. He's not a politician. So he impressed me. And Fawn, not just because I love you, but I moved Ben Carson. He was my #5 choice when I came in.
Mhm.
He was #2 now.
Good.
Because he said 2 things that I have longed to hear. They were asking him the question about, I believe it was waterboarding. Well, what would you do about waterboarding?
Yes.
And basically he said,
He blew that out
well,
of
to
the
start
water.
with, I wouldn't broadcast to the world what we're going to do.
Right.
God love you for saying that.
Uh-huh.
And then later on, he said, this race and that race, just because there's a difference, it's not racist.
Right.
We don't make every difference a race issue. So this man has common sense out the wazoo. I was really impressed with him.
Good.
But
And-
he moved further in my poll than anybody else.
And that
Great
doesn't, I have
communicator.
goosebumps. That doesn't just make me happy. It makes me feel good about my own judgment skills.
Gives you
Because
hope.
thank you. Because I've seen this in him for so long, and everybody kept saying, nope, he can't do it. He's not a politician. He doesn't have it in him. He's not going to be able to hold his own on that stage. And I beg to differ. I thought the man shined.
We knew he could hold his own on the stage at that prayer breakfast.
Yeah.
With
Oh, yes.
Obama.
Mm-hmm. That was an amazing speech. He was in a
Amazing
room of
man.
liberals, and they were
Oh,
cheering him.
You talk about goosebumps that day.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, Boyce, you're up.
Well, I think there were some winners and losers like we talked about at the beginning. And in that column, it's interesting, everybody's mentioning your guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if your coaching helped or the conversations that you had. with
No,
him.
I think it's Ben.
But, and again, I think what won for him is a conversational, common sense, almost disarming level of rationale
Mhm.
that cut through, that everybody could get in simple terms from somebody who's a surgeon and a celebrated surgeon, one of our better surgeons in the country
The world.
when he
World, yeah.
practiced. And he also demonstrated, and I noticed that he may have benefited from some targeted questions because obviously he really did a lot of studying about foreign affairs. and he handled those questions with what was a surprising amount of information and ease, actually. Rubio certainly benefited tonight. He came across through all the questions and responses with just the right answers delivered in the right way. There was no real false bravado. It was delivered well. It was sincere. It was authentic. And I think he really strengthened his opportunity from not being able to break out of where he is in the numbers in the polls right now. Kasich, I don't think he got any help from anybody. It's just what he knows, his experience, and his ability to communicate why what he's done could be a benefit to not only the party's chances to win, but his potential to win the nomination or be considered for it. Cruz. Cruz is probably the best natural political speaker they have. It probably comes from his background.
Or green eggs and ham.
There
He's
you
had
go.
lots of practice.
And he has, and I think he works at it.
Filibuster joke.
And he obviously, this was to his advantage to let people hear and feel his emotion and the confidence that he has. It was probably the most Reagan-esque performance tonight. The strength, I'll do this. As a matter of fact, that was his last summary statement. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do on the first day. And he made you believe it. And then I think Scott Walker helped himself, as we've already talked about quite a bit. It gave people a chance to really hear and see him, even if they didn't feel him. You know, they got a sense of what he was about and where he was coming from. The losers to me were Bush, badly performed. He just never has seemed to get into campaign mode. He's
And
never
he changed everything he was saying. He would say it and then contradict himself. I was getting confused by him.
He's either just so far out of practice or he just is not capable at competing in this kind of level. I think Trump was a loser tonight. He wasn't. He started out with all that emotion and everything, but if you notice the reaction to his comments, the longer the debate went on, were more diminished. And that was not the way he would like to have seen that play tonight. And then I don't think Rand Paul played well tonight at all. Any effort that he made and the responses, he just, his posture and his responses just weren't comfortable and it wasn't a strong communication effort on his part at all.
Well, and he too, as a dentist, I thought would get more of those focused medical questions. Carson got a couple of those, but I thought they'd send them to Rand Paul and they really didn't. So I was surprised by that. Dylan, who do you think did well tonight, and who is Trump still on the top for you?
Oh, absolutely. Trump all the way. That's what I always say. And Rand Paul's my second, but I'm gonna have to go with Ben Carson now because the way he conducted himself and the way he answered those questions totally sold me. You know, I think if I wasn't such a Trump fan, I might lean over to him. But I don't know. I think they did a great job. I'm with him on the loser. I think Jeb Bush did a horrible job. He never says anything the same that he wants to say. I think he's just in there because it's family name and, you know, he just wants to be up there with Big Brother. I think that's really all it is. And Rand Paul didn't do good either. I thought he didn't want to be there. He looked like he was uncomfortable. And I don't know. I just felt like it was Trump and Carson all the way on that one. So.
All right, you, Michael?
I agree. Rand Paul seemed very uncomfortable. There were some very targeted questions to him. I think his answers did well, but his posture was harm to him. Same with Trump. He's still number one for me because I really liked Rubio and I really liked Ted Cruz, but they give off so much of a politician vibe to me that you're so hopeful when you see these people and you hear what they say, but it's actions. It's all about actions. And so I'm just hesitant.
But Cruz has had action.
Right. So I'm just waiting, though. I still like Trump because it's the non-politician thing coming in. Because, I mean, we've had politicians, and no offense to our current one, we've had terrible politicians. And, you know, so I think I want to see where they go farther on down this because that'll really start picking out. I really like Carson. We're going to need a powerhouse, though. We really, really need a powerhouse to fight whatever the Democrats come up with because they're going to try and fight back. And, I mean, they may try and save Hillary, who knows, for another, wait 4 years, see what happens so that they don't waste her on this one, or she may be on this one.
She'll be too old. No offense, but she will be.
Yeah.
She'll be too old.
Well, I've heard the argument for her saying, well, it's her time. She, she's been in politics long enough. I'm like, no, there's no.
Yeah,
no
from the
time
De
for that.
Niros and the people in Hollywood.
Exactly.
Who cares?
So with all that, I really like Trump still up there for me. I still like Carson, and I just gotta say, Chris Christie's a potato. I can't.
He is. He
Same
didn't do
deal.
himself.
I don't even know
any
why
good.
he was there tonight.
Well, I will say this, that I have watched a lot of YouTube videos because that's what I spent January and February when we were all snowed in on these guys. And I'll tell you two things. One, take Scott Walker from behind a podium, put a microphone in his hand, and it is a totally different presentation.
Right.
Give him a 10-foot stage and a microphone, and I guarantee you will see passion out of him. You will see a different reflection. When he is stuck behind a podium and locked into a podium, he gives what looks like a canned response. and he really is leashed and chained to a podium. Marco Rubio is kind of the same way. Marco Rubio sits down and has a conversation with you. It's a totally different conversation than what he has when he's standing behind a podium. Some of you reflected on their gestures and their hands. I talk with my hands clearly because that's what I'm doing right now. And so I pay attention to how people project and speak and whatnot, because it matters what people see on TV.
Well, it's the whole thumb and I don't want to point at you thing.
Right.
It drives me insane.
It's a coping mechanism to drive their point in without pointing at you. And we know that if the election between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy had been on a radio and not on a TV, Nixon probably would have been president and not John F. Kennedy. And so it does matter how you present, whether you can convey that passion or not. Ted Cruz certainly can convey a passion, but I'm not so sure I'm too much of a fan of him, actually, because of the things that he's done. He has taken a stand, but what did he accomplish on the Senate floor? At least when Rand Paul took a stand, he accomplished something. He changed something. Ted Cruz did not get an
They don't
accomplishment
hate him
out of
so
his
bad.
stand.
The poor guy. You know, he's such an outspoken guy.
Yeah.
They hate him so bad.
Well, and he's in
He's
neither
got a
party.
few friends.
He's alone.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
he's like a
alone.
buoy in the
And
water.
it's too bad.
Yeah.
And if you look at this Fox News poll, when they ask the question, are you interested in this election? And when it comes down to liberals, conservative, and Tea Parties, 23% of the liberals said they were extremely interested in the 2016 election. Conservatives were 36%, and those who identified with Tea Party were 51% of them said they were extremely interested in this election. And I think that's very telling as to who is paying attention, what's going on, and how this is going to play out. It's a long time to Iowa, and we have a lot of time between now and then. And I think you're right. Chris Christie is a potato.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all in agreement on that. So as far as it goes, though, because when they were coming into this, Trump obviously was polling the highest. He had the most to lose. Behind him was Jeb Bush and Scott Walker. Those were your three highest in the polls. Honestly, tonight, I think Scott Walker's probably just like horizontal. I don't think he went up or down.
Maintained.
Yeah, I think he's where he was. I think Trump might have fallen a little bit. I expected him to be even more cocky than he was, and I was kind of sad that he wasn't because that's Trump. But I honestly think Ben is the one everyone's going to be talking about, and I also think Marco Rubio is who everyone's going to be talking about.
I think Jeb Bush's numbers will go down, and I think Ben Carson's numbers will go up.
I think Jeb's going to
I
pull
think-
big time.
I hope so.
And if he doesn't, that will speak very loudly to who is running the polling.
It's Karl Rove that's running that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Well, Karl Rove still believes other people can win that aren't even in the race. But Wayne, as far as having run for office,
Yes.
more than once, more than twice,
Yes.
it's a tough thing to get up there and not know what question's going to be lobbed at you because they didn't get those questions ahead of time.
No.
And tell us a little bit about what that feels like when you're standing there. I mean, you're a very calm, cool, collected guy, and I've seen you have to answer questions like this, and you always have an answer, but not everyone can do that. And this was a whole different cast of characters here. What's that like?
Well, I learned being in the Air Force that everyone expects you to be an expert in every area, even areas you're not involved with. And so I learned very quickly in life that you need to bone up and have an idea, at least, of some of the topics that might come up: education, welfare, taxes, different things like that. And you want to research it enough so that you feel comfortable. Usually you only have a minute or two at the most. So if you can come up with some good facts and ideas about that and not have to expand much beyond that, you'll probably look like you're very well versed in that particular topic.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they did a good job in their preparation?
I think some did and some didn't. I was what I looked at first of all was there were three people that I would like to have seen on the stage. We talked about that a little bit
Right.
at the beginning of our program, and so to me that was Rick Perry, Carly Fiorina, and Bobby Jindal. So if I want to get those three on stage, who's going to have to exit? And I did put
Mr.
them in
Potato
that particular
Head.
order. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
And so to replace, to me, Jeb Bush and Chris Christie and John Kasich, I wouldn't miss them at the next debate because I didn't think they added that much to the debate.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that were my favorite were and not in any particular order, but Scott Walker, Mike Huckabee, and Ben Carson, and then everyone else floated in between in my list.
You're the first person to mention Huckabee. Wonder why that is, because down here, Mr. Grits was really into Huckabee before this
I
started.
had Huckabee was my number 2 choice when I went in, and he was my number 4 choice. So he dropped in my poll somewhat, but I just didn't think he came across near as passionate as I expected him to.
Yeah.
Because obviously I leaned towards him being a good Baptist boy, but he wasn't near as passionate as I thought he
Well,
was.
he's got a TV show now, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's on Fox
He's
News.
been
No,
influenced.
it's
So
off.
he's not anymore.
No,
Oh, not
no,
anymore?
he gave up his TV
Oh.
show in
Oh,
April.
that's
He
right.
had to
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I was
he
gonna
announced
say,
that he was
yeah.
running. Before he announced he was running, he
He's
had to
still
give up
been
his
tainted
TV
by
show.
Fox News.
Yeah, they can't just give him a platform to continually perpetuate his
Once he announced,
message.
he had to come out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think overall, and let me check the time here because I don't want to keep everybody up too late. We have about 20 minutes left before we have to be off the air. We're live on KZIM KSIM.com. This has been an open debate here before and after the actual debate for the GOP candidates, a roundtable, if you will. And the people who are here tonight are Wayne Wellingford, and he is your senator, and they're all taking time out of their day, everybody, or their night, if you will. Scott Clark is here. The lovely Holly Lintner is here, and she's added a lot. Marilyn Neville is here. Doug Austin, Boyce Holt, Dylan Riggin, and Michael Tennisketter, just so you know who you're talking to tonight. And I'm Fawn Riggin, in case you forgot. The debate tonight taught me that I didn't know as much about these guys as I thought I did. And I didn't know as much about where they stood on things as I thought they did. But them personally, I only found 3 of them even likable as far as would I want to have a beer with them, as Obama would say. You know, and I think that that's something that they all need to work on maybe a little bit more, because people want to have a president that they can relate to. Because we keep talking about, you know, can you relate to the common guy? Who do you think did the best job just being like a real person tonight, Wayne?
Well, I think that's Ben Carson. He comes across very good at that, relating. You could visit with him on the street corner, and I've seen him in person down in Sykeston and visited with him, and he's just a real normal guy that empathizes with the people around him.
You're not just saying that to make me happy, are
I
you?
am not.
Okay. Because he really is. I mean, he giggles at your jokes. He's charming. Thank you. See, Scott, who do you feel was the most personable?
I think
Not
Marco
passionate,
Rubio.
personal.
I think Marco Rubio, when he says, "Look, the largest country in America now doesn't even have a store here." You know, I mean, that's putting out. I shop on Amazon. I don't know if anybody else shops on Amazon, but I shop on Amazon, and that relates to me. He's looking, you know, going forward. He's looking forward to the future, not a throwback to the '90s. If it's a throwback to the '90s, then we have Bush Clinton wins, and I don't necessarily want to see that. And so I'm looking for somebody who's looking forward to the future, and I think Marco Rubio projected that tonight. It was a good night, I think, for him, and so I was glad to see what I saw there. I feel like his story is a good story. It relates to many individuals, and several people can relate to. I mean, you talked about having student loans. Most people who went to college probably have some sort of student loans or some, you know, something or another like that. And I think that's very relatable. I don't know that anybody else brought up those personal situations, you know, that relate to what I've gone through and what, you know, millions of other Americans have gone through.
Very nice. And Holly, it's getting late, and I know we're all getting tired, but when you were watching this, did any of them strike you as so personable that you would want to hang out?
Well, I think they're all very interesting people. Obviously, to get to this level in politics, they're all very interesting, and I would sit down with any of them and, you know, poke their minds. I love the fact that Dr. Ben Carson can come down off of that and be very relatable. And I guess he had the Operation commercial where they were kind of playing on
That was cute.
that.
Yeah.
You know, things like that I think makes him really fun. But also, and I think what a lot of gets lost on him as well is he's also been a professor for years. So obviously he's had to be entertaining to go through that profession as well. So
He's so soft-spoken and
Yes.
and gentle, even though he was angry and had issues when he was a kid. Somehow something broke somewhere. He must have got fear of God in him. But Marilyn, who did you find the most personable?
Well, I don't think that Walker was impersonable. He's a upper Midwest guy, and I know how to communicate with those guys.
Yeah.
You know,
He sounds like you.
he does a lot actually. But you know, I don't know. Is everybody afraid of Trump? I mean, I think I could have a nice conversation with him and not feel stupid.
He'd pick up the tab.
And that's the other thing. Why the beer?
I think with Trump though, he frowned the entire time.
Yeah.
Because they were picking on the dude.
Yeah, but
Well,
you
it
got to
started
make
out-
light of it.
It started out that way,
But
but
that's
I
his
don't.
personality.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that's his negotiating. If that's his
Actually,
normal
if you
face.
watch him and all
Yeah.
the interviews,
You know,
that's the guy. That is who he. And you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Serious.
intimidate me.
It doesn't mean
And I'm
either.
not going to say bad things to him.
Right.
He's going to like me because he likes girls.
He's a man on a
Except for
mission.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Except that was
She
hilarious.
deserves
That was
the
the
opportunity.
funniest thing of the
She
night.
was so mean to him.
Yeah, she's mean to everybody.
Oh.
She deserves whatever she
But you know,
gets.
another thing about Donald Trump, he is a celebrity. He's loud, he's brash. He has large gestures when he speaks, and he projects. You know, he can talk down at you, and he can talk over you. And so it's not that warm,
He's real.
fuzzy, endearing guy, but he is.
And that's
At least
what
you know
we're
He's
what's
doing.
straightforward.
What's wrong with
He's
that?
straightforward, and he has changed this game because of those
I
qualities.
admire the guy so much.
Yeah.
That's what we
He
need.
doesn't intimidate
Straightforward.
me.
For
But you
tonight, if I were in Boyce's shoes, going to have to drive back to Poplar Bluff, the only one of those guys I'd want in the car with me to drive all the way to Poplar Bluff this late at night just to have conversation with Ben Carson.
Okay, excellent. Boyce, you have to drive all the way to Poplar Bluff.
Well, I don't have to.
Well, God bless you.
That's where I live.
There's a blue couch in the lobby that I use
I've
sometimes.
spent the night in Cape on many occasions, so I sometimes feel at home here too.
Okay.
But you know, and I think we're all coming to a conclusion here that I mentioned earlier. Ben Carson, and you know, he actually had one of the more memorable lines that we'll take away from there. We talked about those things that really kind of congeal around a candidate or people relate to, and in this case, it was that remark about he didn't get a chance to talk about his accomplishments, and he wanted to do that, and one of those was removing half a brain, and he thought he was the first
Somebody beat him to
first
it.
one to ever do it until he met people in Washington D.C. and figured that it already happened before. That really played well, and but it also kind of qualified who he was as a professional. This is somebody we can respect, somebody who's earned that despite all the odds against him. And then again, here's one of the most personal people. I thought you were biased from day one. But he really revealed himself to be that guy that I can talk to him, and that could be my president.
Yep.
That could be
My
my president.
friend.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so by far and away, I was really impressed with his performance. As a matter of fact, it's the first time I've seen him perform at that level and do that well, and it left me with a different perception of his chances.
That makes me so happy. How about you, Dylan?
I don't know, I'm a huge Trump fan, but I have to go with the more peaceful talk would be Ben Carson. Probably he seems to be the smartest and most educated up there. But Trump would be fun to chit chat with and have a good time, you know, because he's a straight shooter, and that's the kind of people I like to be around. So.
Can't you imagine him and Putin
Yeah,
at a table
that'd be interesting. Yeah.
playing poker? That would be awesome.
It'd be a clear winner.
I would say this on Twitter. It has been announced that in the spin room, of course, we know afterwards there's all this discussion. There's a spin room, and all these surrogates go and spin for these people. Donald Trump himself came into the spin room to talk to reporters. Total mob scene. He didn't send somebody to do the job. He went to do the job to take care of talking to
That's what I'm
reporters.
talking about.
And that's
Now
what
that's something I think is credible.
see, this
right
is
there.
what I want with the go-getter. I really like Ben Carson, but working one-on-one with surgeons, I know how they are.
Yeah, you can't broad stroke, Mr.
Yeah.
Trump. Mr. Trump. You can't broad stroke.
Now, Trump, though, that's what I really like is I'm not going to send somebody to do my job for me. I'm going to go in there and do the job myself. I really like that with Ted Cruz coming out saying, I'm going to do this on my first day. But you also have to realize they're going to, they're a lot of times as presidents or governors are figureheads. They have to work with Congress. They have to do a lot of this stuff. But I really like Trump's ability to seem to be able to get the job done. And economically is my big push on this, and that's what we need as a business.
But can he work with other people? Because that is part of the job. He's so used to being the boss that I don't want another Obama with a phone and a pen. Keep in mind, I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
But I don't want somebody who's dictatorish, and that's the only fear I have of him, is that it's going to be my way or the highway. Even if I agree with his way, we still have balances and checks and balances. Thank you. And I'm afraid that he would be offended by that process
Can I
somehow.
give you my opinion on that?
Yeah.
He's not going to sit quiet about it. He's going to get out there and get as much media attention and get the truth out there. And I tell you what, there's going to be so much egg on some people's faces that their own people are not going to vote him in another time. Because I believe Trump is going to have so much support. They're so sick of the way things have been that I believe people are going to follow his road, his route.
You know,
If
he
gets
mentioned that he utilized the laws of the land to his advantage. So he's aware of the laws. I don't think he's going to break them just to better himself.
Or create them.
Right, or create them to do that. I think, because he says our country make it great again, and he recognizes that it's fundamentally messed up and that the laws are being either ignored or abused. So I don't really get that fear of him going just like executive order this, executive order that.
Although
So-
if he needed to get the job done, I believe
I
he would,
don't-
but it would be in our betterment as a country, not just the Republican Party.
I'm not sure I'm okay with either of them, whether I agree or not, because could be wrong.
Bush
and
did
agree.
it.
Mhm.
Right.
They all do.
They all
I mean,
do,
it's not
to a
something
point.
new, it's just
don't do it
not to-
all the time.
Right.
Yeah, it just wasn't like pandemonium like it
Right.
was in the last couple of
We've got
years.
to have something happen. We have got to have changes, and we can't let what's happened now stop us.
Solidify it.
Yeah,
We need to get focused as a country too. We are letting Hollywood basically write the script for what's happening in Washington,
Yeah.
it seems. And that's got to stop. I don't want Beyonce and Jay-Z doing concerts at the White House
Us
every
paying
2
for it.
days. Yeah, and I don't want a $12 million trip so that he could come back and talk about class warfare. You know, I don't want that. And I think with Trump, you wouldn't have that because he wouldn't be spending our tax dollars. He's got enough of his own money to go. He's got enough golf courses so he can go anywhere he wants for free. So with that all being said, I don't think he's like Obama, but I think that he does have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And I think we all have to look at that maybe a little closer.
if you were him right now, wouldn't you have a chip?
Oh, but he
Yeah.
always does. You know, this isn't something new. This is the Donald that's been around forever. I do like the fact that he talked about that he had grown over the years and evolved
Yes.
through some of his answers. That was what, with him, that's what I was most impressed about, because everything else he said was Donald. You know, it's what I expected him to do. He was maybe even a little less boisterous than I thought he was going to
gave
be.
examples as to why he evolved.
Exactly.
He didn't just say, well, I've evolved on the issue.
Mhm.
No, he said, look, this happened in my life, and this happened in my life, and that's what's caused me to change my opinion. And I think that is justifiable.
Mhm, that's human.
You can take a stance on an issue 15 years ago, and guess what? A lot of things happen in 15 years. And if it causes you to rethink your position, I'm okay with that because you're being open and honest with me. You're not just saying what I want you to, what you want me to hear or think I want to hear by saying I've evolved.
Can
All
I
right.
throw in real quick? I
Sure.
thought it was interesting. Bush was the only one that mentioned really energy and mentioned that pipeline coming through. I was like, I wonder why you're mentioning that. You know, it's
Mhm.
some of that family business in there. I just thought it was interesting.
You know what? I
We
thought
need that
too. We have to
pipeline.
gas people say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
just
we
thought
do
it-
need it.
This
Right. No, I just thought it was funny. He was the only one to bring up anything like that.
Well, Vaughn, I think tonight, in addition to our potential presidential candidate, we may be looking at one of our vice presidential
And Secretary of State.
and cabinet members.
Right.
True.
I know early on it seemed like they tried to point out Mark Rubio's maybe lack of experience, but I think he has more foreign policy experience and national security experience than anyone else up there, because he's on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the Intelligence Committee.
Yeah.
But when they asked him that, he said, well, if you're looking at experience, then Hillary Clinton is our next president.
Resume.
And I-
If you're looking at a resume.
Resume.
Yeah.
Resume,
If
not
you're looking at-
experience, but
if you're looking
resume.
at resume, and see, that's the part that worries me. She has on her resume very impressive things: U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, but all it is a job title. There's no accomplishments
Who,
under
while
that.
she
In
was
fact, the things
there,
that she has done, like Benghazi, ought to eliminate her totally.
Mhm. What difference does that make now? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
and let's remember, while she was in that position, she was using a server at her home illegally And
There's a criminal probe going on about that right
Yeah.
now.
Well,
but
if I
don't
was
wanna
in
get-
the
So I
Air
think it's gonna
Force
get
still
worse.
and did that, I would be court-martialed.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, but
I would be court-martialed.
How did
It's
that
just-
work out for David Petraeus?
exactly, and it's the
Right.
exact same kind of probe that they're doing on her. So, but that, it's amazing to me how the double standards play out between the two parties. It's amazing to me. But last comment, as we are running out of time, Wayne, overall, I think we are looking at cabinet members too. And if Ben is not the choice for president, because let's face it, we don't know what's going to happen in the next year. Anything could happen. Half these guys could drop out of the race. But
Secretary of Health and Human Services.
yeah, I do
or
think
VA.
I do think so,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you were going to pick what, you don't want to endorse anybody, so I won't put you on the spot just yet. I'll let you slide on this one. But Scott, for you, unless you want to, sorry.
Well, it's too early for me to really
Okay.
rally around one.
Okay, go ahead, Scott.
I sit on the state committee and I'm helping write the rules that's going to govern the process. So I wouldn't necessarily endorse a candidate. I have several choices. I have a bracket. It's called the Scott Sweet 16. There are consolation prizes, which are Ag Secretary, Commerce Secretary, Foreign Secretary, and Health and Human Services. I think Dr. Ben Carson would make a great Health and Human Services Secretary,
Okay,
for sure.
okay. How about you? Miss Holly's putting some thought into this. The rest of you have a little more
It's
time
way
to
too
think.
early. It's way too early.
Uh-huh.
It's just, and people ask me this all the time, and I'm just like, you know what?
You've
just
learned.
watching the circus and watching all the elephants in the circus, and I'm not going to get invested in anyone right now. And I think part of that is the way the process has unfolded the last several times. It's not ever the candidate that I want it to be anyway. It's always the mishmash that's in the middle,
Mhm.
and it's not the person that really believes what I believe. So I'm just not getting emotionally invested. I'm just watching the circus.
Yeah, if I had to base it off of just tonight, though, I have clear in my mind who I would like to see in the
That's
top
Ben.
3. Yeah, well, of course,
Okay.
for me, but what about for you?
Okay, so we have at least 3, but I
Mhm.
have at least 4.
Right.
And I'm not gonna say who of those 4 because I really like all of them.
Okay. All right. But overall, do you feel like Wayne said, do you feel like we could have been looking at cabinet members tonight?
Oh,
Doug?
very definitely. And I'm not endorsing anybody at this point, but if I came away with one, wow, and that was Carson.
Okay.
Because he said things that really impressed me. Trump behaved, see, I'm falling right into the same trap. Trump was Trump.
Mhm.
I mean, I expected that, but I was a little surprised he didn't come out more Trump. than
I thought he'd
did
just be swinging
But
high
I was,
and low and
I just said
everywhere.
wow a couple of times, and at my tender age, I'm not impressed that much anymore.
Mhm.
But I was impressed with that,
Okay, awesome.
and my senator, I was impressed with him.
We love you. And for you boys, before we let you get back
Well,
on the road?
I think what we're talking about here is what I suggested would happen. The campaign has now changed.
Mhm.
Things have changed
Forever.
as a result of the performance that we saw on the state. And actually, for those who did and didn't see the performance of those who didn't make it on the stage that we're talking about. So things have changed. It'll be interesting to see which sound bites get repeated, because actually, other and beyond what happened live, it's what gets reported for the next week or so, especially as you go to a weekend talk show recycle of all these comments. And that's going to have an impact of the perception of likely voters and the polls that will reflect the real winners, if you want to put it that way, coming out of this particular initial debate. So I think some people really helped themselves. I think there's some candidates that broke through, but it'll be interesting to see how this gets played on media platforms and how the public reacts to it. I think we'll have a better sense of who really won and who the losers were.
Well, and low information voters, as Rush likes to call them, are going to go with what they see on AP News or Yahoo News, or what gets regurgitated on Twitter, or someone's opinion of something that happened will become fact, and they won't check it out to find out what was really said, and they'll go with that. But we all saw it. So for you, Dylan, do you feel like we were looking at future cabinet members up there?
Oh, sure. I mean, of course I'm for Trump, and I probably won't change my mind on that.
That's fine.
Unless he doesn't make it, then I'll
Mhm.
go for Carson. But I know I see Scott Walker and hopefully not, Mr. Potato anywhere near that.
Way to go, Michael.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Potato Head
Hey,
from this day
I
forward.
commented that on his Facebook picture.
I think there's a lot of potential up there, and I don't know. It's so hard to tell right now because there's so much wish-wash everywhere, and you never know what's what. And a lot of people change their minds over the next 14 months. So I don't know. It's going to be hard to see, and it's hard to really tell.
Well, I'm proud of you as my son because you vote and you fight for your right to vote. And do you feel like there's a chance we're going to come out of the situations that we're in with the guys that we have on the stage tonight? You feel we can turn it around?
I think we can. I think this country's sick of it, and I think we're ready to make a big move and a big change swiftly, because the way we're moving now is just right in the crapper. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, cabinet members up there tonight?
I agree that we could see some of that, and I think your original question was poised who would you pick tonight? So
Nobody would do it, so I
I'll
switched
do
it
it.
out.
I'll do
Go
Trump
ahead.
Carson 2016. And I'll support whoever, because I think we've got up there, like the top ones that we talked about tonight, whoever comes out of it, there's hope. There's a glimmer of hope. Because like Holly said, a lot of times it's not the one that you really want. And this mishmash, and in the middle, you're like, well, I guess I'll support him because it's better than the other one.
Well, at least
But
we know who the
there's-
media is going to attack now.
Yes,
Yeah.
The ones who
yes.
did well
And
are
so
going to be
that's
the
why
ones that are.
It's up to us to get it out there. And so many of the people our age, I hear it's like complaining and other words, about stuff. But then they're like, well, I'm not voting. I'm not voting. Yeah, I don't vote either. I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you complain about these problems, and it takes no time at all to go over there, get your sticker, and check some boxes and leave.
Mhm.
And you don't have to do the research. There's people out there. You're like, hey, who's the best one and why? And so
That brings up something that was a problem in the Romney, when the Christians wouldn't vote.
Mhm.
yes.
Because he was Mormon.
Yep.
How crazy is that?
Yeah. We've got to get past those stereotypes of things we don't understand until we know more about them. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. Wayne Wallingford, thank you for being here. Scott Clark, Holly Lintner, Marilyn Neville. See, I'm so tired. I don't know someone I've known for 10 years. Oh my goodness. Doug, as always. It's always good to have him. He loves Cape more than anybody I know, Mr. Doug Austin. Boyce Holt, thank you so much for taking time. Dylan, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Michael Tennis-Ketter, you're very welcome. I'm Fawn Riggin. We're signing out. Thanks for tuning in on KZIM KSIM.com. And we're doing this again. So if you'd like to get in on it, have your opinion put out there over the internet for people to harass you afterwards. No, they'll respect you and want to be in your spot. That's what it'll be. You can always email us at kzim@riverradio.net. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.
Appreciate it. You're welcome.
Very good, Fawn.
Great job as always.
Yeah, excellent.
That was fun.
I don't know.